Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without Hank. We are the Swindon Town Swoodly Poopers, and we are, that is one of the ugliest chins I've ever seen. We are playing in the FA Cup. Back-to-back FA Cup games for the Swoodly Poopers. We are playing a significantly better team, at least on paper, in the form of Stoke City, a Premier League squad. So we have much cause to be nervous. We need to win this game to continue playing in the FA Cup, which is, of course, the Swindon Town Swoodly Poopers' favorite competition and one that we desperately wish to return to the finals of. So, we'll do our best here. I'm going to talk a little bit today about my life as a child, but you'll forgive me if I try to focus. Oh, that's got to be a foul. That's a red card. That is a disagree. Respectful disagreement. I think that was a dirty, dirty tackle by the captain of Stoke City. Wow. Wow, other John Green lucky to emerge from that uninjured. A lot of, that's been like a frequent request is that I talk about what my life was like as a child. I was a nerd. You'll be surprised to learn. Like, I don't really know what else to say. I had two really close friends when I was in elementary school, both of whom lived in my neighborhood, Matt and Andy, and I still like both of them a lot. They're really great guys, and we had really special friendship and like one of those, friendships that you're just really grateful for. That continued all the way through high school, although I went to boarding school, which kind of made us a little more distant. But we were always, the three of us were always, oh my God, Fat Lucas, that was just a terrible, terrible save. And then saved off the line, I believe, by Rampage. I mean, that could have been a game-changing moment. Thank goodness, because that did not go well. That is not how we drew it up in practice. That is, almost. I had Matt and Andy, and I was very, very lucky to be friends with them because, they didn't see me as a nerd. Oh, ball John Green out of nothing. 1-0 Swindon Town Swoodly Poopers over Premier League club Stoke City. Can you believe it? Oh, great goal. Really great goal. Great turn. Cruyffy turn, you got to say. And then he just buries it in the back of the net at the last possible moment. That's not a foul. That's just two men who care about each other. My day-to-day life when I was a kid was actually pretty fun because I was always playing with Matt and Andy, and we were, wow, these, I don't want to say Stoke City's playing dirty, but they are definitely playing, oh, it's a second yellow, and he's off, just like that. Wow, a stunning turn of events for Stoke City. Suddenly, they have only 10 players because that guy just lost his temper and had two bad fouls in the first 17 minutes. This is, I don't want to say that it's looking good for the Swindon Town Swoodly Poopers, but we're up 1-0 on Premier League opposition, and they only have 10 guys. So, we could be in a worse position. Oh, no. Fortunately, we have Fat Lucas in goal, and he makes me nervous of late. And I lived in Florida, so the weather was always beautiful, and, that stuff was, oh, ball John Green, he's a finisher! Yes, 2 goals from Ball John Green. Look at his beautiful mustache and hugging his husband. That's just, it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Men who love themselves, love each other, and love their team. Just, you saw him kiss the badge there because he's loyal to Swindon Town Swoodly Poopers for life. However, Matt and Andy were not in the same grade that I was in. They were both a year younger in school. Which meant that my school day, my school life, was quite a lot harder. Is it going to be 3-0? It is! Other John Green getting in on the action, and 28 minutes in, Stoke City are down to 10 men and down 3-0. Wow. This is the kind of game where Leroy Williamson, who does score occasionally, could score. I'm feeling really confident about our side right now. We look great. They're down to 10 men. Leroy Williamson is a relentless defender, as is one-size-fits-all. He never gives up. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Never gives up. Love him. Well, maybe my favorite player. Uh-oh. Fat Lucas. Fat Lucas. Whew, his girth intimidated them. So in school, life was considerably more difficult for me because I didn't have friends, and I was seen as pretty nerdy and unpopular, and I made some of that worse for myself, to be honest, by being kind of annoying. I mean, one of the things is that I think as nerds, we need to take responsibility for our nerdiness a little bit. And, you know, we can be pretty, I at least could be pretty socially awkward. And I made things difficult for people. It wasn't easy to like me because I didn't have great social skills. And, you know, and I wish that people, like kids, had been more respectful of that. But at the same time, like, it wasn't their fault that I was, you know, socially uncomfortable. It wasn't anyone's fault, but like I can't very well like blame them and be like, oh, those terrible, terrible kids. Like they weren't terrible kids; they were normal kids who were, you know, dealing with someone who was tough to be social with, tough to have typical social relationships with. Is other John Green going to score a goal? Oh no, he's not. It stays 3-0. But you got to, I mean, you got to say at this point, I don't want to speak too soon because I too saw the 2005 Champions League final, but looks pretty good for our Swoodly Poopers at the moment. And plus we've got, look at Rampage on the ball. So strong. So strong. Look at that. Pure strength. Pure strength. You know, Rampage has never scored a goal for the Swoodly Poopers. It's an interesting fact, and now is not going to be the time. So I was a big nerd. And I struggled a lot with that because I desperately wanted to be cool. It wasn't... The problem was that not only that I was nerdy, but that I couldn't embrace it. You know, I couldn't feel like it was okay to be nerdy because I was so obsessed with being cool and being popular and being well-liked. And that made it, of course, even more difficult for me socially because I was even more awkward. So there you have it. Halftime, John Green, and John Green have scored. It is 3-0, and the Stoke City fans are duly devastated. Wait, I think we might be in the semifinals of the FA Cup already, which, is that true? Is that possible? But there's only one other game, so maybe it is, in which case we could be playing Chelsea. We could be playing Chelsea, but admittedly not Manchester United, but a pretty good club in Wembley for the FA Cup final, if I'm not mistaken, which would be just amazing. I hope that's true. Maybe there are other games that I don't know about. I don't know. We'll keep you updated. So, my nerdiness was definitely an issue throughout elementary school, but it became much worse in middle school when it was even in some ways more obsessed with being popular than I had been in elementary school. I just desperately wanted a group of friends, and when I got to middle school, Matt and Andy weren't even in the same school as I was in, and that made it infinitely more difficult, and that was when I really started to get bullied and, you know, just teased pretty relentlessly, and all the stuff that you know, that you hear about, that you know. And again, I can't. The kids who were bullying me were kids too, and I don't. You know, with the benefit of hindsight, I see that, like, you know, they weren't evil at all. They were doing the best that they could do. Oh, a goal from French Lana. Can Leroy Williamson be far behind? I mean, when French Lana scores, Leroy Williamson does sometimes score. In fact, what if we just went ahead and made Leroy Williamson a striker? I just love it when he scores. I just love it. I can't help myself. And I don't hate John Green being back there in the back a little bit, you know? Just taking care of business at the back. Anyway, it got really hard for me in middle school, particularly in 6th grade. Then I went to a different school for the second half of 6th grade because things had gotten kind of out of control at my original school. I went to a private school. Hank always went to public school. I went to private school for parts of middle school, and then for when I went to boarding school as well. But in fact, like, Hank did pretty well in middle school because Hank was always able to embrace his nerdiness. And it was never an issue with him. He was just like, yeah, I'm a nerd, and I'm friends with the other nerds, and that's cool. And I couldn't do that. I could never reconcile myself to it, and I pushed toward popularity in weird, sad ways, and just, yeah. Anyway, so that was hard. Like, it was hard on a pretty daily basis for me when I was in middle school, and I didn't have a lot of fun. Certainly at school. But I did still have a lot of fun at home, you know? Like, I still had a really great family life, and I still had really good I had good like home friends, neighborhood friends, and so I was still a pretty happy kid. It's just that I did kind of dread going to school. And the other thing is that even though I was ostensibly a nerd, I was and everyone kept telling me that I was smart. I wasn't very good at school. Like I didn't get straight A's or anything, so it wasn't like I had that feeling of I get to be this like I'm nerdy, but I get to be the best student in school. I wasn't by any stretch of the imagination the best student in school. So that got frustrating sometimes too, because I felt like I should be doing better academically than I was, and I was never a great student until I got to college, and even then I was only like an okay student. I think I graduated college with a 3.3 GPA or something. Like I wasn't one of those child prodigies or whatever. I just like writing about them. Get it up to Leroy Williamson, then pass it to John Green. Oh, come on. Leroy Williamson, you're better than that. I just have a soft spot in my heart for him. Him and One Size Fits All are kind of my favorite under-the-radar swoodly poopers. Who are your favorite under-the-radar swoodly poopers? Who do you want to know more about and see more from? I know you guys like Voluptuous Pericard because of his enduring love for Alice, but, he's just not as good as a bald John Green and other John Green. At some point, you've just got to say, like, well, talent matters, Oh, gosh, Leroy Williamson can't get it on the frame. So then, by the time I got to ninth grade, I started hanging out with the colloquially known wrong crowd. They were smart kids and a lot of fun to be around, but yeah, they were the wrong crowd in the sense of being the we called ourselves the Progressives, which is like the worst name for a group ever. But we were sort of the gothy kids, I guess. And we, hung around and smoked cigarettes and wrote bad poetry and talked about the bad poetry we were writing and that kind of thing. Most of all of them ended up fine. All of us ended up okay. But it was really the fact that I was hanging out with the proverbial wrong crowd that made my parents okay with me going to boarding school in the end. Boarding school was something I always wanted to do that my parents were very, very reluctant to let happen because, they liked me and they didn't want me to, like, live outside the home and whatever. But that was what made it possible to go to boarding school in the end, which, of course, as I've previously talked about, was a huge part of my life and a great thing that happened to me. So, we won. And I think we get to go to the FA Cup final, but maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, goals from John Green, in French, Lana. I will give you an update in tomorrow's Hank games about whether we're going to the FA Cup final back at Wembley, potentially to avenge our terrible, terrible loss. In the meantime,